the Cowboys. It's been a very confusing couple of days on the Zeke Elliott front. I feel like I've been talking about this now every day for a month. Last Friday, we were living in a world where Jerry Jones had just said he expected Ezekiel Elliott to miss multiple regular season games. Then on Saturday, Adam Schefter reports that talks between Zeke and the Cowboys are intensifying. So I can't make up my mind where we are when it comes to Zeke Elliott and the Cowboys. Let me turn to you. Where are we today? Is Monday. They play the Giants Sunday.
They spent the weekend talking, so that is intensifying because they were kind of nowhere. They hadn't really had any substantive talks on this in about a month. So a lot of optimism about the possibility of a deal getting done sometime soon. But it's not there yet. There's a lot of complicated factors to this deal. It's not just, do you want to make more than Todd Gurley makes? It's guaranteed structure, when the guaranteed money gets paid, and how soon. So there are a lot of things to still be worked out. I think the next couple days are critical. They practice on Wednesday as their first practice in advance of, the Giants game. They practice today, but that's kind of an extra. So if he's not in-house by Wednesday, then they do have to make plans without him.
Yeah, and I know everyone talks about Ezekiel Elliott and the time off and the training, and they go to a potential injury with the soft tissue hamstring stuff. I actually thought when we took a long period of time off from playing football, the offseason, the hardest thing to get reacclimated to was your eyes. You're just, because again, football is played in blurs. You just see blurs and colors. Running backs' eyes are paramount to their success. And so how long is it going to take Zeke to get his eyes used to seeing a cutback, seeing a hole, being patient for one to open up? That's going to take some time. And again, he's missed all of those reps. And that would be something that if and when he does come back, I would have to know as a play caller, Kellen Moore, who's their new offensive coordinator, how are his eyes right now? Because no wasted plays is not just a saying. It matters.
As far as working him in slowly, I feel like I have pointed out their first two games so many times now that it's like I'm a record that's skipping. But they open with the Giants and then at Washington. That's consecutive division games. You can look at that one of two ways. They feel winnable, but boy, you better not lose them.
And then at the same time, week 4, New Orleans. Week 5, Green Bay. Week 7, Philly. So if you're looking at an early schedule going, okay, what games do we kind of have to win here to feel good about our season? You're looking at those first 2 weeks and saying we are the better football team. We should win those games because week 4, week 5, week 7 are coming, and those are going to be battles.
There's no question that they're looking at it that way. There's nobody in the Cowboys building that is looking at Sunday going, oh, the Giants are a pushover this year. We can win without Ezekiel Elliott. They want him there. I think he wants to be there. It's a matter of getting this deal done. They're at work on it. By the way, they were talking with Dak Prescott and his reps over the weekend, too, about a contract extension that is needed there, but not as pressing since he didn't hold out.
I'll point out once again, Dak Prescott is in camp, and he's in the last year of his contract. Zeke Elliott is not. He has 2 years left on his deal. The Cowboys are not obligated to do something here, so it will be very interesting to see if they are willing to give him what he wants, which is to reset the running back market in a situation where at least financially he does not have any leverage. A lot of other interesting situations around the sport. Sam, what else do we have this morning?
Yeah, Cowboys trying to win right away. The Dolphins may be doing something different. They underwent a massive overhaul of their roster this week. That includes trading away their left tackle Laramie Tunsil and receiver Kenny Stills to Houston. Miami received multiple future first-round draft picks and a second-round pick. Tunsil and Stills weren't the only trades the Dolphins have made in what's been a busy offseason for them. This week, they also traded veteran linebacker Kiko Alonso to the Saints in exchange for fellow linebacker Vince Beagle. And the big move was during the draft, of course, when they shipped out a second-round pick to the Cardinals to acquire former first-round draft pick Josh Rosen. For more on that, we bring in the former executive VP of football operations with the Dolphins, Mike Tannenbaum. All right, Mike, you know how this system operates. What do you think the Dolphins are doing?
Well, obviously, they're trying to prepare for the future the best they can. They've acquired a number of picks in both the 20 and 21 drafts. So obviously, that's where their focus is long term. Short term, Coach Flores is going to try to get himself established and get off to as good a start as he can, establish a culture and a foundation for his program.
So regardless of what Brian Flores says, the Dolphins are obviously not going to be very competitive. At least it looks that way on paper. So that being said, why not start Josh Rosen at quarterback?
Sam, that's an interesting question because obviously by the end of the year, if you're the Miami Dolphins, you want to have Brian Flores established as your head coach in terms of the standard and the culture, and you want to know what you have in Josh Rosen. You acquired him. He was a top 10 pick last year. Didn't have a lot to work with in Arizona. He's an intriguing player. He has a lot of upside, good arm, good mobility, as we're looking at here. So I'm sure at some point this year, Sam, the Dolphins are going to have to evaluate Rosen because he's a key question as they move forward in their rebuild.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your time. It all sounds crazy, but maybe crazy like a fox if they're able to win some games this year. Let's send it over to Greeny for more on this one.
All right, guys, so there's so many different pieces of that, Sam, to sort of look at and unpack here. We're going to deal with the tanking part of this a little bit later in this hour because I think this is a potential problem that we can see coming for the sport. But let's focus on the quarterbacks here for just a moment. What do you make of this thing with Josh Rosen as far as how realistic the evaluation of him can be even after this season?
Well, I want to know with the Miami Dolphins, why did you trade for him? What was the reasoning to trading for him? Because he's statistically been better than Ryan Fitzpatrick in training camp and in the preseason games. And you're obviously, as a front office moving forward, are building for your future. If Fitz goes out and has an okay season and you're 7-9, it does nothing for your future. You are in the same position next April or next March that you were this previous one. Let Josh Rosen play because, again, you traded for him with your fingers crossed. Maybe he can be the guy that we're looking for. And so give him the opportunity. I understand the team around him is not super talented. But what happens if he gives you a glimmer of hope? If he performs really well? And to Mike's point, he said, at some point. Well, if that is the plan, why is the point not right now? And if I'm a guy in that locker room, what are we doing?
They have to play him eventually, right? We know, to Mike's point, they have to play him eventually. They have to find out what they have. The reason for trading for him is all about options. Like, you have Ryan Fitzpatrick in-house. You can play if you need him to. Now you have Josh Rosen in your building all year. You get to know him, what makes him tick, maybe see him play, definitely see him practice. So going into next offseason, when you have 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, you could probably get any pick, any quarterback you want. You now know what you have in Josh Rosen. So all they're doing is kind of, I don't know how they sell it in the locker room. Because it makes all kinds of sense in the front office and from outside in terms of a long-term plan. But in terms of getting those guys to play every single week, I think that's the big
here's
challenge.
The reality, too. Because of the moves they've made, hey, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the veteran, you just go take a beating. Yeah. You're just here to take a beating. And Josh Rosen, we have no option. We have no choice to tell you other than we don't know what we're doing with you right now, and it's unfair to you as a player.
I will wrap this conversation by saying if the Dolphins go 7-9 this year, Brian Flores is the coach of the millennium.
Sure.
This is a team that has flat out traded away every chance they have of being competitive this season. We're going to talk about it later in this hour, but this is a clear case of tanking, and it's a problem. Meanwhile, let's run the hurry up. Dan Orlovsky, some of your big takeaways from the college weekend, starting with the quarterback.
Yeah, Justin Herbert had a really, really good weekend without his top 3 receivers playing a outstanding Auburn defense. Led Oregon to a game that they should have won. Mismanaged at the end, and credit Auburn for making some plays at the end of the game. But Justin Herbert firmly planted himself to a top 5 pick conversation after week 1.
They didn't win because of this kid.
Man, Bo Nix ended this game the way a kid named Bo Nix should. You talk about showing some onions. One of the hardest things as a player is to not play well for most of the game and then have an opportunity and go, I got to erase everything because nothing else before this happened matters. I've got a chance to go win the game. The way he handled that situation was incredible to watch for a true freshman who had just been named the starter 10 days ago.
And then finally, transfer portal.
Big weekend for transfer quarterbacks. Justin Fields made the wrong decision right. Going to Georgia was the wrong decision. Make the right one. Transfer to Ohio State. He had a massive weekend and probably opened our eyes again to this kid might be what everyone thought he was coming out of high school. Lit it up. 4 touchdowns within the first 8 minutes of the weekend, and he has brought his name into the conversation of don't forget about me. I'm one of the great quarterbacks in college football this year.
And then there's LSU. I know you were very high on them. They lit up Georgia Southern. That's not a big surprise. But the big story was Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdowns in the first half.
This offense looks explosive. Burrow was 23 of 27. He threw for 5 touchdowns. They've got some weapons on the outside. Justin Jefferson and Marshall. Marshall's a 6'4" sophomore, 3 touchdowns. But Joe Burrow gives this LSU offense a part of it or an example that they've never had.
All right, Sam, I want to go through some of these that we just go back to. As thrilling as that game was between Oregon and Auburn, and it lived up to the hype, and it comes down to that last play. The sort of narrative going in was if Oregon loses that game, the Pac-12 is basically done. Is that what we saw over the weekend?
No, I don't think so because of the other games that were lost in the SEC. Like, it looked really bad for the Pac-12 early when you started watching the games because they were losing games they absolutely cannot lose. But then we saw it all over college football. So it evens itself out. There's still a whole lot to be played. I will say this, though, really quickly on Bo Nix. I talked to Jordan Palmer, who coached him a lot, about him and whether or not this was surprising to see a guy at this level step up. Not at all. He's like, this guy's been watching Cam Newton. Yeah. That was he was all about Cam growing up, went to that game, that national championship game where we've seen the footage. He's just that kind of guy. It's never going to be too big.
Yeah, it was really a treat for us to watch Herbert make some plays. But the Bo Nix mix, and hopefully we have the video of him and Gus Malzahn on the sidelines, because we heard a little bit of like this kid's wired a little bit different. He's got some moxie. There's a play near the end of the game where, again, he handles a very difficult situation. He's been the starter for 10 days as a true freshman at a place where his father played. You talk about pressure and expectations, and he takes down a guy who's some believing to be a top 5 draft pick at the quarterback spot, and he's just got this moment on the sideline with Gus, and he just goes,
yeah, I love it.
And it was just like, I'm here.
And then finally, to go back very quickly, I know I'm jumping around here, the Ohio State point, when you saw what they were able to do, could that offense be even better now without Dwayne Haskins?
It can be better because Justin Fields brings the running ability back to this offense, and Ryan Day has such a great feel for guys who had super different talents. Justin Fields, to me, threw the ball better than I had anticipated. He ran their offense really well. But this kid is a dynamic athlete. So you're taking, I'm not saying he's the passer Dwayne was last year, but he's going to be a very good passer in this offense. And now adding the fact that he is this running threat, this offense could be better.
So after just seeing them in one game, what do you think the ceiling is for this Ohio State team? Do you think they're disrupting the a la Clemson dynasty right now?
I do. And I get to call their game at noon this weekend against Cincinnati on ABC. But this team now, because this offense and defense looked better, they're dangerous in the college football playoff.
And the coach in Cincinnati, Fickell, was briefly the coach at Ohio State. All right, let me run through a couple of other things for you here as we get up and go. Bad news at USC. Sophomore quarterback JT Daniels will miss the rest of the season. Tore the ACL and meniscus in the right knee. Dan, how big a loss is that?
Well, listen, they've got some players behind him, but Daniels was the guy that was going to resurrect USC's program. He was a true freshman last year as a starter. Early in early, had really good signs to start this game. And Helton, who's coaching for his job, has brought in Graham Harrell as a play caller. We'll see what these young guys can do behind him. But this is a big loss for USC, who's got a ton of talent.
On the field, meanwhile, a last-second touchdown led to an Alabama A&M win over Morehouse College, 35-30, as quarterback Akil Glass throws that 20-yard touchdown to Brian Jenkins Jr. with 3 seconds left to play. Glass threw 4 touchdowns in the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic. To tennis, where the top seed in the men's draw is out at the U.S. Open. The defending champ, Novak Djokovic, forced to retire. He's got a shoulder. This was in the 3rd set of his match with Stan Wawrinka last night. Djokovic was down 2 sets in the 3rd when he pulls out. This opens the draw wide for Roger Federer, who is on the same side and now may have a real chance to make a run to the final. History in Toronto yesterday. Astros ace Justin Verlander throws his 3rd career no-hitter. Struck out 14, allowed just a walk in the 1st inning, and that was it. He threw 120 pitches. Again, it's his 3rd career no-hitter. He also no-hit the Blue Jays once upon a time as a member of the Tigers. And you look at those who have thrown 3 no-hitters or more in their careers, it's an exclusive list. Sandy Koufax, Bob Feller, Cy Young, among the other pitchers who've accomplished 3 no-hitters in their careers. He's got a long way, though, to catch Ryan. Ryan, with 7 all-time, is the record. All right, still coming in this hour of Get Up. We knew Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were a real contender to win the AFC, and then a sneaky big move this weekend may have put them over the top. Plus, how many weeks will it be before the Giants switch from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones? Some NFL predictions you will not want to miss are on the way on this Labor Day edition of Get Up on ESPN.